Today, once again, I had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Scott Walter, a factory and robotics and simulation expert. We touch on the new poster that was released with Tesla AI Day 2 invites that shows a little bit more of the arm. We also have some fun doing predictions about what we think might show up at AI Day next Friday, which is just a week from now. And I have a not so little announcement that comes next. Let's take a look. Hey, y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All, and guess who I'm with? I'm with Dr. Scott Walter.
Yes, and John actually has an announcement, which I am going to do for him, and I would like to be the very first one to congratulate John on getting an invitation to AI Day.
Woohoo! Which actually, I know, I just can't even knock me over with a feather.
Well-deserved, well-earned. And now I can say I actually know someone who's going to AI Day. So that is great.
Unfortunately, just as an influencer, not as an actual recruit, but I'll take it. I'll take it. That's fine. And actually, that tails into exactly what we're going to talk about today, because the invitation came with a slightly revised version of the robot heart picture, and you should show your shirt since that pre-exists.
Oh yeah, somewhere in here, if we can go ahead and see it. So
there it is.
Yeah, I put this one on today for this reason.
There we go.
And then if you're wondering, Starlink Heavy is down there somewhere. Oh, you probably can't see it. There'll be a video coming out about that eventually.
Yeah, actually, I'm very interested to find out what the tests are. So Starlink Heavy or whatever is,
or high performance. Yeah, I just call it heavy. It's easier, rolls off the tongue easier.
But it's slightly bigger. The dish is bigger, and it's supposed to have much higher bandwidth, and it actually requires a power supply. So obviously, it runs.
Yes. There's a few subtle things about it that are a little bit different that I'm going to try to go through in my review of it. I think we see this, correct?
We have seen this, and I will put a link to this at the end of this video so that people who are interested. We spent quite a while talking about this picture. But today we actually got
this is the original one, and so we could only see a little bit of it. Now, we have this one,
which gives us a lot more detail about the arms.
Well, let's say it's a little bit longer. I'm not sure the detail's much better. Yeah. I still had to blow it up, and I had to clean my glasses a couple of times to make sure it's still a bit fuzzy in some places. But yeah, there's a little more detail here. And that, I guess it fills in some of the guesses that we had. So it's pretty clear there's an actuator along here. And I think yes, right there. I threw in these details on here. So we're pretty sure that we have linear actuators here.
Which will get the hand to do this kind of thing and up and down. So
yes, and I point this out because I was saying you're going to need to have some sort of idler joint here in order to allow this piston cylinder kind of assembly to go up and down in the articulation you have going over here in the wrist. And we probably have the articulation going on over here.
Right.
So that is why, if you remember, we kind of predicted something like this.
Right.
That is how the mechanism is going to work, which is why you have the pin joint back here. And these things are all going to move around, and that's what it's going to look like. So that means some of our idle speculation may not have been that far off the mark.
Right. Right. And obviously the different colors in your simulation are what the longitudinal one that can rotate this way. But as opposed to a human arm, it doesn't.
Yeah, that was there just to make sure that, you can sort of see it. I think it starts out at some point in here. Oh, did I even show it rotating in this then?
I don't know that you did.
I probably didn't.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, if we want the version, I've got the interactive version out here somewhere.
There we go.
So so we can go ahead and interact with this, in which, yes, you've got a rotation along here, and then we have this kind of yawing back and forth, which is done with a differential of these.
Right.
And then if you just push them forward, you're going to get that kind of up and down pitching motion.
Right.
And we can clearly see that, you're going to have some sort of joint back here in order to allow the cylinder to freely move.
Right.
And
that allows us the 3 degrees of freedom that we're used to with our arms, with our hands.
Yes, exactly. So that's what allows that there. We see a little bit more detail down below. So I suspect that they can run some sort of services or wires through what's down below here to get it up through the wrist and out to the fingers to do whatever's going on. Okay. And that's assuming this actually is a real picture or a real rendering. of it.
So again, hey, the good news is that 1 week from right now, we, like basically a week from now, we'll find out one way or the other. So
Right.
yeah.
Now you're going out there as pretty much, the AI expert. So I have to give you a lot of coaching when you go out there and what to look for, because I have a feeling what we see in the live stream is not going to be as detailed as what you're going to see up close.
Right. And we'll have to see what sort of restrictions there might be on taking photographs and things. But
yes,
but anyway.
yes. Yeah,
we will see.
Take some notes. It'd be interesting to see what we can figure out mechanically of what's going on.
Yeah, the thing is, obviously, you know a lot more about robotics than I do. So that the mechanical aspects. So actually, one thing I was curious about when you said there's an idler joint. So that idler joint is necessary to allow the arm to kind of have some flexibility when it's
well. Basically, it's needed there for mechanically for it to work. So it's basically it's a geometric problem. If you don't do that, that means the piston is going to have to bend. It's the only way, because this mechanism here is basically forming a triangle. So you've got a vertex here, sort of a vertex there, and a vertex in here. Yeah. And the law of cosine says if you change the length of this, you change all the angles inside of your triangle. Right. And there's a fixed distance between here and there, which means that angle has to change. So you have to have something here which relaxes it or allows it. So there's no motor or anything there. It's just a hinge joint that's going to move up and down, and there's probably one on the other side. And as you can see, it's a little hard to tell in here, but my suspicion is it's not really a hinge joint, but it's a ball joint there, because when you do the yawing back and forth, you have a second one. So it's a bit more involved than just being able to rotate in one direction. You need to have a little bit of relaxation the other. Otherwise, things are going to bind up and it won't work. Right.
So, and another thing that's much more obvious in this picture, what you were talking about, that the wrist, the actual pivot joint like this and the wrist is not centered at all. It's actually below where the hand is. So like the two pistons are there. Yeah, it's way down there.
Yeah, there's. It's kind of hard to tell. My suspicion, I don't know if you can see where my mouse is rolling around here right now. Is my suspicion is that it's rotating somewhere around there. And then you just have what looks like a bony structure kind of coming right up.
Okay, so you don't think that part of the bottom would actually rotate?
No, I don't think it is. I think that's fixed. I think it is up there somewhere. But through here, it's probably hollow, so you're able to run. Yes. Whether it's going to be tendons or wires for power or whatever, whether there's going to be actuators built in here, who knows? Okay. It looks like there are some sort of tendon or tendinelle-like things along here, along these fingers. But and the actuators could actually, be hidden in the palm somewhere to be able to pull on that. But still, you need to get power out there, so you're going to have to route something through there.
Yeah. And the one thing that still is not explained at all is the mystery pack that's on top of both of them, because even with more detail, it's like it's just sitting there.
Is it the control system for the actuators? I don't know. Yeah. Is it something they just need to be able to control this whole thing, and maybe that's it? But I would think they would be able to miniaturize that and stow it in somewhere else. Right.
So you're thinking maybe like a PCB, like it's an actual controller unit, like a small.
Might be as simple as that we're overthinking what it is. And, it could be that, well, it's a prototype, so don't worry about it right now. Yeah. The only other possibility is, everyone speculates, well, is it like a vision system or a LiDAR or something like that? Right. So when you're operating around, it would be nice to have eyes there. And we have seen, we did look at the Optimus slides, and there seem to be cameras actually mounted on the torso. Yeah. There's 4 cameras on the torso and 4 cameras on the head. So, and the only other thing I can tell about this thing is that you cannot trust the AI day 1 slides at all. My suspicion is that whatever speculation you're doing off of that, you can't go with it. So that's about the only prediction I'm going to make, is that it ain't going to be anything like the reveal a year ago. It's going to look a lot different.
Oh, yes. Well, and like you're talking about the prototype, obviously this has no skin on it. It's, it's just bare metal. Very much like the Terminator after Arnold Schwarzenegger burned off.
Whatever skin they put around here is going to be interesting, because this is going to be moving up and down. There's going to be a lot of flexibility needed around here to cover that.
Exactly. And we still can't tell whether there's 2 fingers or 4 fingers up on top. It's you can only very clearly see two fingers.
There's at least three. Well,
I mean, including
a thumb plus two
yeah.
fingers. If the thumb does not count as a finger, some people say it does, and then you have the other two fingers that are there. So there's at least a total of 3 digits. Let's call it that. And there might be a fourth one hidden back there. It's still very hard to tell.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's the exact same render. It's just that it's been zoomed out a little bit more.
Yeah, interesting. Which also potentially, I don't know. I have always felt like this was an actual photograph rather than a CGI, because there are actual slight asymmetries and stuff in the way that it's done. But of course, that could easily happen when you're when you're doing that on purpose. Because when you're animating, you're always supposed to have the asymmetries in the animation.
And I did hear that one comment that someone thought one side was CGI and the other side was real.
Yeah. And
it could, there's just something about the lighting models on both sides that are not the same. It is. It's turning my head inside
and whatever's
out every time I
reflecting
look at
the
it.
hand is very bizarre. Like the reflections are strange.
Yes.
It's nonsensical.
Yes. Well, I don't, this is picking up something that's not being picked up over on this side, but it's kind of being picked up underneath. It very well could be. Right. That one's real and one is actually CGI'd, or the whole thing's a CGI. I mean, my first impression was someone said, "Dolly, make me a hand for AI Day," because there was just something about it that didn't look right.
I did try that, by the way, and it produced much more realistic looking hands than this. So as an FYI, I actually tried it with Dolly, and it produced something that looked more like what you would imagine. This is very different. Like the hinge joints in the thumb are particularly bizarre. Oh, one thing I can actually see better now is with the finger up at the top, you can actually see a hinge pin through the end here. Of the in both of those.
Yeah,
there's
you can see those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not so much in the next digit.
And I think we already talked about it, that they're removing at least one of the articulation points in the fingers.
Yes.
So basically they took what's the end, the digit and the middle bone, and then fused it sort of together, and then made this length down here a little bit longer. So it's not exactly anthropomorphically correct.
Right.
But I don't think that's the point. They just want to be able to make sure it can do humanoid type tasks. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as a human body.
It's interesting that there's no pin in the hinges in the second digit, though, after the first digit of the finger. And so maybe it's just a slip cover.
So there's one right there. You can see where the mouse is. There's one there, and there's nothing here. Is that what you're talking about?
But that's what I was saying. Is there one in the second one? So you've got the pin, and then that one.
I think there is. I think there's something. It's hard to tell. It may be a bit more internal.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe it's internal.
Yeah, so it's sometimes you can do that and you won't be able to see it, and then down here it's a bit more clear, and you can see it. But I'm pretty sure it articulates there.
Right.
But I'm also pretty sure that this part here does not. That is just kind of arched a little bit just to give it the shape that they want to have, but it's not going to move.
Right. So fascinating. It's I mean, we've made a lot of hay out of this picture, but it just seemed like it was worth at least going back and looking at it again, since the new invitation that came out was much wider, so you could see a lot more. Actually, interestingly enough, my wife got this version. I only got the shrunk up version. So when she got the invitation, it was the wider one.
She got the wider one, which is interesting.
Yeah. And so she was like, I'm going to post it on Discord. And I was like, will you please post it already? Which is why I was like, please post the picture. But it is fascinating to look at. Can you switch back to the previous one? Because you can see how the one that one. You can see how much was missing. You couldn't even see the bottom of the wrists at that point. So
so we had to guess that there would be this other pin joint over there. So that's where we get points. So we kind of said, yep, there's going to be something right around there. It just has to be for it to be mechanically sound. And that's what your invitation looked like, also something like this.
Yeah, it was cropped like that. In fact, it was actually square, so it kind of cut off the ends. Can you flip directly to the other one now? Because I'm wondering if it's the exact same. Yep, it is. So if you look at the reflections on the hand, like the brown stuff, it's exactly the same between the two of them.
Yes, you see that
there, here, and on the palm of the hand and stuff. Yeah. So
just that they did something with the background a little bit, but that's easy to Photoshop.
Yeah. So whatever it was, this has all been one photograph that they have just manipulated in different ways. So.
Okay, so predictions now. You said we had to
gosh.
predict something.
Okay. Yeah, we did. I said we have to put our what reputations on the line, I guess. And I suppose I can make more AI based predictions and you can make more robotics based predictions or something or whatever. Just take a gander at it. You go. What do you think?
I had to go first. I still need a bit more time. I've been thinking about this for hours and I still don't have an answer. It's kind of like at the restaurant. Oh, it's time for me to order. Exactly. You go first.
It's like you got to pick the chicken or the fish.
My only prediction is that John Gibbs gets to go to AI Day.
All right.
Oh, I'm right. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm assuming James Dama also, because if he doesn't go, then there is something wrong with the world.
Right. Yeah, I saw Chuck Cook is going too, which is awesome. Yep. So it was great.
Yep, and Dirty Tesla is also going.
So, and maybe John Kreider is going. I'm not positive. I haven't seen that for sure. But
yeah, Holmars is not, at least, based on his latest tweet. So
right.
I don't think so.
Yep. I have to
ran out of space.
I have to make one small statement here, and I don't remember the person it was, and I'm not calling that person out personally by any means, but I had requested on Twitter, I said a few times over the past couple of months, and not obsessively, but I said, boy, I'd really love to get an invitation to go to AI Day. And I got really, really kind of taken out by this person who is younger, probably in his 20s or something, and said, you're such a whiner and I've unsubscribed from you and all this stuff. And I said, so I wrote him back and I said, look, constructive criticism, the world owes you nothing. If you don't ask, you're never going to get it.
Yeah. And if you don't ask, they can't say yes. Yeah.
I would just say that the person who wrote me and said, hey, you're invited, said, we saw that you requested an invitation to this. And I was like, okay, so there you go. I think case in point was, if you don't ask, you're not going to get it. So certainly just a little life lesson.
Okay.
So anyway, so
you're buying me more time here. Let me see if I can come up. You go first.
Oh gosh, I don't have any good predictions. I'm terrible. I'm really bad at making predictions. I think we'll definitely, look, they've already told us, they're going to tell us more about Dojo. It would be, I don't know about showing us Dojo though. Like, how do you do that? Do you wheel out an actual rack? It's a little difficult because it's kind of cumbersome. It's large. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's like this bigger than those bookshelves back there and thick, and it has to be plugged in. So maybe some more video of it rather than bringing it out in person. They'll actually show the thing operating and maybe how quickly, some benchmarks. So probably some benchmarks on Dojo that show that it's actually faster than the NVIDIA GPU cluster that they currently have. So
okay. Yeah, that's my suspicion that from Dojos they'll probably show something is working. I don't know if it's fully up, but at least it will be kind of operational to some extent.
Right.
The question is how that impacts FSD and whether they're able to show any sort of improvements. What are they going to roll out on FSD, or is it basically, are they going to show us something behind the scenes, or do we already know? We kind of know the capability of FSD already since we're all using it.
Right.
And then the robot, the reason why I'm buying time here is that someone made a suggestion like a week ago, and I completely forgot what it is now, but it was a really good suggestion of what it might do.
Oh,
fairly straightforward, very simple with the robot. What it would do. Obviously, would have to involve a little bit of walking, a little bit of manipulation.
Right.
And I'm still trying to remember exactly what it is, and I don't have. But it goes along the line of nothing too fancy, nothing that is going to have these headlines around the world that it's incredible what it does. But everyone in the AI community will be kind of blown away by its capability of being able to do what seems to be a very mundane task.
Right.
And then we can see, it really is something more than just CGI. They actually have built some hardware and is able to do a little bit of it.
Right.
But I don't expect it to be doing really awesome things. It's not going to be jumping or dancing or doing anything like that.
So here's a basic question. Is it going to be tethered or untethered?
I would think it have to be untethered.
Okay. In order to be impressive.
The only reason for it to be tethered is if there's some sort of safety concerns, because you've got a live audience and, they might say, well, based on some regulations, we have to go ahead and do that.
Right.
I think Atlas has had some cases where it's been untethered, but usually it is for a variety of reasons. A lot of it is like, so when it does fall down, it doesn't break itself.
Yeah,
But
that's what I meant. I didn't mean tethered
yeah,
necessarily to the computer in the back. I think they can fit that
yeah,
inside the body, but more like a harness to make sure it didn't break itself.
yeah,
So,
yeah. There'll be some sort of safety precautions, I'm sure, just to make
right,
sure if it does fall down on something, it falls down on something soft.
right. So, do you think we're going to have another Cybertruck reveal moment where the glass is going to is it going to fall down?
Oh, of course. Oh, absolutely. There's probably going to be some funny things like that, I'm sure.
Right.
There's always a chance, but that's how you know it's a real demo.
Yes, that's true.
You know, if it goes absolutely smooth without any glitches, then I'm going to say, it's too polished.
Right.
It's
So it was all scripted.
polished.
Yeah, it was
too scripted.
Yeah.
And, you know, if there's a couple little glitches here and there where things, you know, it's, you know, like an animal act.
Right.
You know, every now and then the animal's going to misbehave. And, sometimes that's what actually makes the comedy act work.
Yeah, that's true. So here's a fun, this just is off the top of my head. It's a prediction / request. What they should do is they should have a Cybertruck at the AI Day demo, and they should have the TeslaBot throw a metal ball at the Cybertruck window.
Oh, see if they can break it. Yeah.
I'm not talking about hard, but just to replicate the Cybertruck reveal. That would actually be very impressive. If it could walk, pick up a ball, move over and throw it at a targeted area and actually hit that area would be a pretty impressive demo, honestly.
Is that going to violate one of Asimov's 3 laws of robotics?
It's only harming the truck. It's not harming humans.
But the truck can be considered a robot, right? I mean,
it's not allowed to harm. Well, it's just a demo truck. Maybe they can tell Tesla.
They have to remove FSD.
Yeah, they have to remove the computer. They remove the computer out of it, so it's not an actual robot, and then it won't care. So I don't know. That would be fun. I would totally...
take it out on a Roomba, because as we've been discussing, they are not robots. They are automated vacuum cleaners. They are not robots.
You were on a one-man mission to prove that iRobot is not a company that makes robots. So yeah,
it wasn't me that started this. I think it was Lex, right?
Yeah, actually, that's true. He did.
He brought it up. I'm just piling on. You know?
Yeah. Speaking of, I wonder if he's going to be there himself. He seems like the kind of guy who would be at an event like this, for sure.
Does he even need an invitation? He could probably just show up and let him in, you know?
Well, I just have to say, if Lex Friedman shows up and I get a chance to say hi and shake his hand, I'm going to ask him why the heck I'm still blocked from him on Twitter. I still, to this day, have no earthly idea why.
And his answer might be, I can't answer that, you know?
He's like, it's on a need to know basis, and you don't need to know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, okay. Anything else? It probably won't have skin. I'm assuming it's not gonna look like the thing last year, like the CGI.
No, it's not gonna be. It's not gonna be polished. Whatever they need to protect the components that are in there, and maybe to shield you from seeing what some of the secret sauce. I mean, I think most of it there is to make sure prying eyes don't see things that they don't want to have seen yet.
Oh, so it might wear a dress. That'd be nice. Okay, so Teslabot in a dress.
Yeah,
there you go. So how about this? I'm assuming that Teslabot's going to require hardware 4 inside of it. Do you think that they're going to talk about hardware 4? In other words,
they would need a hardware 4 for that.
Maybe not. Well, why wouldn't they put hardware 4 in it? Because they've got hardware 4 prototypes already.
Oh, if they have it, if they have it, why not? I don't know if to me, I'm almost thinking that FSD is a much harder problem than what you're trying to do with the Teslabot in a smaller scale. It's in a very structured environment, way more structured. I'm not talking about letting it, really run amok out wherever it wants to go. But for some of the tasks you want to do, I think you could do that with hardware 3. I don't think you would need to go to hardware 4.
Okay.
Maybe eventually.
Right. I guess I assume the hardware 4 is going to be able to run more power efficiently, and they're not looking at mass producing this thing until at least next year.
Yeah.
So why would they build it to a lower spec and then have to upgrade it when they could just? But what they could do, of course, is they could have hardware. They could have hardware 5 in this thing for all we know. But that they wouldn't tell us about it. It's just you just close off that area and you can't see it and it's magic. Or they could part of the announcement for AI Day could be to talk more about the specifications of hardware 4 and the new cameras, because they're now what, 5.4 megapixels, 5 point something like that megapixels. The new Samsung camera. So that's one of the things they could talk about with actually here, let me stop. Actually, you stop sharing the screen. I was going to say,
okay, yeah.
People are probably bored of looking at this picture right now.
Here we go.
There we go. So I was thinking like maybe they could part of the AI Day announcement stuff, in addition, like last year, the hardware thing was all about Dojo. But what if this year they actually spent some of the hardware time talking about hardware 4, like part of the presentation? That would not surprise me at all. And I'm kind of feeling like, because they already taped out and had early production versions of hardware 4, I believe back in early 2020. Maybe
it should be available by now.
Right. So I'm thinking it probably, given Tesla, it's probably more like hardware 4.5, whatever they call it. It's probably not the same version that it was 18 or 20 months ago.
From that standpoint, it probably makes more sense if the hardware is already there and you're using what is almost going to be deprecated hardware. You're just slowing yourself down. So you may as well use it, even if you don't need all that performance yet.
Right. Well, the other thing is, even if you don't need the performance, you can clock it down so you can run it at a lower power envelope, which is really helpful for a limited battery space. So
I'm just thinking of like, it has a lot more headroom than you do in hardware 3, and they may not be using all that.
Right. But I guess I was just going flat out with power and thinking like, you can, if it's a smaller die size, it's going to run at lower power, and therefore you don't have to use as much battery. So I don't know. It just, I feel like hardware 3 is pretty long in the tooth at this point. So
that's true. Part of it comes down to the question of familiarity, if you're already familiar with it, but hopefully hardware 4 is not that much of a learning curve to jump from one to the other.
Yeah. Well, that was a big thing that, oh gosh, who talked about that? Somebody else did a video on this, so I can't take credit for it, but he was saying that the jump from hardware 2.5 to hardware 3 was massive, because it was going from NVIDIA GPUs to custom designed chips. And here, when they've built hardware 4, they've already built hardware 3, so that you can change the specs in a way that it's relatively straightforward to transition from one to the other. So it should be a pretty easy. Maybe it was James Dalma that was talking about that. I think it was actually.
I remember the video you're talking about.
Yeah, it was definitely James Dalma. So sorry about that. Credit to James.
Probably was. And now I'm trying to remember the video it was actually. But you're right. It was James. It was like, wow, this is sounding really familiar.
Yeah, it was actually a Twitter thread that he was talking about, and then I just did a video on that. So anyway, sorry about that.
So it was your video I was remembering.
It was my video, but it was James's idea. That's what I said. I don't want to take credit for it, but it actually makes a lot of sense that they would write the hardware to be, like a souped up version of what they have now. So maybe the instruction set is expanded somewhat or something like that, but it would still be backwards compatible, so that you would be able to just, essentially swap the things in, and the old neural networks would at least function in a simulation environment or something like that. So
I think they should be able to, but if the robot can walk a little bit,
right.
What are you sort of hearing around it? And any rumors or anything like that?
Does
Elon seem
really tight-lipped,
ebullient about it, or
the only thing I've seen officially from them is Elon talking about how the smart summon feature, the actual smart summon feature, which is what I did my video on this morning, and Optimus, Teslabot, the only two things that's the only thing, but they have the September 30th deadline, which was like hint. So we will almost definitely hear about Smart Summon on the AI Day event.
Right. And I was wondering if it was the same team or different teams, or if there was some kind of overlap there that made them think that they could work on both at the same time.
Right.
To me, it seems like for September 30th deadline, Optimus is the one. That's what you've been talking about. We haven't been talking about Smart Summon. Right. It might be nice to show off, but you don't have to show it off at AI Day. You could show it off later on.
I'm kind of thinking in terms of the software. My guess is that they will rehash some of the talks, like the thing that Ashok did a while back about the occupancy network. They'll rehash some of that. He'll probably actually give part of that talk over again. Right.
That hasn't been done officially
in
Tesla. Yeah.
Yeah. and maybe just a little bit more about that. So I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more hardware based, even though it's called AI Day. There's going to be a lot of stuff about Optimus's hardware and how, and also, just there is a lot of software involved in the whole balancing, bipedal locomotion, all of that kind of stuff. So there's that aspect of it. And then what we'll get in terms of the software is we'll get like a lot of this is really cool stuff. But my guess is that it'll be rehashing some stuff that we've probably already seen with new details. It won't be completely the same. So, but that's just, I'm sure I'll be wrong.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm terrible at predicting things.
It's hard to say what the optimism is over Optimus, whether there's really going to be something shown.
Right.
Or whether everyone is like, oh no, it's like C3PO on his worst day,
right?
Just bits and pieces all over the place and trying to get it back together or something like that. And who knows? Maybe we just see like the two legs walking around and we don't see a body with it. I don't know.
Right. I have a very strong feeling that I'm glad, and probably both of us are glad we don't work for Tesla's AI division right now, because I have a feeling this next week, these guys are probably going to come into that talk like off of no sleep for the past week and look a little bleary eyed. So I have a feeling they're going to be working hard. I mean, given the fact that literally the invitation is a picture of the robot hands, they pretty much are committed to showing us something that Optimus is doing. But you're right. It could just be an arm. They could say, look, we've got an arm and it works great and it picks things up, and that's cool. So which would be awesome, And
again, I mean, we're thinking about what are the hands going to be like, and we've seen a lot of good hand designs out there. Are they going to borrow something from there? I've been thinking a lot about that open AI hand, which is incredibly dexterous, being able to do the Rubik's Cube.
Right.
I think the problem might be is that we're being more impressed than we really should be, because it's really good at doing the Rubik's Cube. And so we say, oh, if it can do that, it should be able to do anything else.
Right.
And it may turn out that despite that, they go to grab a can and they can't.
Right.
There's like, oh, it's a whole new problem. It's very different.
Yeah.
So with a lot of things, sometimes we end up adding more I guess, detail or sophistication to things when it's not really there. Just like we think our pets are way smarter than they really are.
Oh no,
my pets
are
fooling us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I think it's sort of the same thing with that. It's like, oh, okay, it's there, it's able to solve it, because we're impressed by the fact that it can solve the Rubik's Cube.
Right.
Okay. That's not really a big deal. Solving Rubik's Cube, anyone, it's pretty easy to write an algorithm to solve the Rubik's Cube. All you have to do is figure out how to get those things to start moving around.
Yeah.
So we're adding additional intelligence to the capability of the hand that's really has nothing to do with the capability of the hand.
Well, and here's a really interesting thing that I thought about, because at the beginning I was like, look, it can do it one-handed, and I don't know that I could solve a Rubik's Cube one-handed, even if I knew the codes, the secret. But that's actually easier than if it solved it two-handed for a robot, because then they have to work together. So now it does a really interesting thing. It does a little kind of funny shimmy with its hand every now and then, because it sort of understands physics in inertia, that just by doing that little thing with the hand. That's what impressed me in its dexterity, being able to do it. They're actually solving the Rubik's Cube. It's like, oh, that's a normal computer algorithm problem. Don't be impressed by that. And all you have to do is be able to, and once you know the starting state of the Rubik's Cube, you know exactly the moves that have to be done. All it has to do is execute those things. Right.
And as you see it being done, I don't think you have to see the full Rubik's Cube to solve it. Because once you see a little bit of it and you know what the state that it was in, you can infer what the current state is.
But the other thing is that there's also the discounting of the fact that there's like 20 or 30 cameras hanging around. Like when you see a wider view, there's cameras everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see.
It's seeing a lot. Yeah. And the question is whether it's able to do it just with one point of view, or whether it needs all of them.
Right.
But I would think, but that's a different discussion. It's nothing to do with AI.
Well, but I think it actually makes some sense to talk about, because, you look at the TESLABOT hand, and when you really dig down, if that's the real thing, it's like, well, okay, it's not going to be that dexterous. It's not going to be the open AI hand. but at the same time, the OpenAI hand is built into a wall, and behind the wall, I have this horrifying feeling that there's just wires, stuff going everywhere.
There's a bunch of puppeteers back there. That's why I want you to see what's behind the wall.
So, so there's a lot of stuff. So in order to squeeze it into an actual arm shape, it's going to have to be pretty minimal in order to do it.
Right.
And we've talked about this before. All it has to do is grip, just like the Google bot or something, and pull a trigger. That's pretty much all it has to do.
It does not have to fold laundry.
Yeah.
Does not have to do that.
But I'll be really disappointed.
Is going to be pretty low.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That brings up one thing. There have been people, I can't remember who started this rumor, but there are people who are saying that you're going to be able to pre-order a TESLABOT at AI Day. I am able to. No. Well, a person could. So
a person could.
Well, I guess that I just don't feel like that's probably going to happen yet. But I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I pre-ordered a Cybertruck.
Yeah. I mean, at this point. But I mean, at that point, we had a Cybertruck. There was an actual physical.
Yeah, which is going to be out first, Cybertruck or Optimus?
I mean, I guess that's the thing. If you see this thing walking around and it actually looks pretty done, except it doesn't have like a plastic skin on it yet, I'd be like, yeah, they might actually start taking pre-orders because it might only be a couple of years away at this point. But
Again, we've had this discussion. It's going to be worth more in the factory than it is in the household at first. And then once they kind of work all the kinks out of it and figure out, how to make it really safe and do a lot of other, because you're probably, I mean, easily 5 years or more before you could think about it being something you could put in the house.
Yeah.
And even then it would probably be very limited until you get more and more experience.
Right. Just because of like safety regulations and things like that, right?
Oh yeah, I think there'd be a lot of things like that. So we talked about that with the Google bot. They want to be able to put that into the household and maybe do little tasks there. So they are kind of aiming for it, and they're taking a certain design approach that might make it more palatable or much easier to get it in there. But again, I don't think that thing's going to be folding laundry either. But it might be doing some very simple tasks for people. And the question is, can you make money on that? Either selling it as a service or selling it to people, whereas the whole idea is that what Tesla is doing is they're making money not by selling the robot, but by reducing the cost for their manufacturing.
Right.
So the whole thing is, a penny saved is a penny earned kind of thing.
Right.
And they are going for the penny saved that is going to help us in our overall production environment.
Right.
And hopefully, part of the reason you put robots in is not because you're trying to reduce labor in labor costs, but what you're trying to do is improve quality. And the fact that everything comes out exactly the same, repeatability and everything, because you're doing the steps exactly the same way. And that would be part of the reason for having the TESLABot, is you're guaranteed that what it's doing is the task is always being done to the same level.
Well, Sandy Monroe talks about that, the cost of quality. If you don't build it right the first time, you have to pay to fix it later on down the production pipeline.
Yes. And you trickle all the way down. The funny thing about what ended up happening when industrial robots came in is they thought, oh, we can just have them go in there and start spot welding.
Right.
And the weakness of the humans was that we were too good at adapting to the fact that the parts that were coming in were really poor quality. And we did whatever we could to get them to fit. And the industrial robot, if it's not where it's supposed to be, it would just error out and what are we going to do?
Either that or it'll spot weld through the wrong part of the
our upstream processes. We've got to start focusing on that. So a lot of times people think, oh, we can just put a robot in there. And then you have to say, well, wait a minute, look at your upstream processes. And if you don't have those ducks in a row, it's not going to work. So that meant the quality just kind of moved up and up and up. Right. And then the advantage is that as you're doing the production, you can even check the quality, because it used to be I think it was called like statistical quality assessment. You would pull something off the line every now and then.
Right.
And from that, start to make judgments that, oh, we've got a quality problem, and kind of predict where it was.
Right.
But that was way too late in the process. Now, when you automate, you can actually start measuring as you do it, and you can pinpoint the error source instantly.
Right.
So that's a much better way of being able to improve quality.
Yeah. That's interesting. But again, the one thing about having a humanoid formed robot is that should, with neural networks as the basis of it, is that it should be able to be a little more flexible, as opposed to the traditional robot. If the things are off, it errors out, or else it does an incorrect weld or something. With the robot, if it needs to shimmy something, it should hopefully be able, to be able to do that.
Yeah, be able to do it, but then that's the first sign that there's something wrong with your product.
Yeah.
yes.
But I mean, okay, let's take a different task entirely. Just going and picking up boxes and bringing them over.
Yep.
As you pick up each box, the pallet might be put down in a slightly different place each time.
Yep.
And as you pick up each box, the landscape changes, right? It's like the next box is in a different place. So there's some necessity for flexibility in the way that
yes. And there are definitely a lot of places where you don't care that much about the precision of what's going on. It's just it's part of a sub process going here to there.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the product, that's something else.
Yeah. So I mean, just if it was picking up a box, opening the box, dumping the box into some funnel that then goes in, that's a bunch of bolts that then the robot's going to be using to bolt things together. The precision is not that critical, but it's the flexibility of being able to deal with the fact that the box is made out of cardboard. It squishes a little bit. It's not exactly the same every time.
Exactly. So it's dealing with the variation of what's coming in. The fact that its world is not as structured as you think it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So. All right, let's go ahead and leave it at that, because we've already we said we're going to limit this to 20 minutes, and now we're at 40. So
okay, there we go.
That's actually, let's we should definitely request comments from the audience about predictions for AI Day. You're welcome to tell us that we're completely wrong. We already know we're completely wrong, but we'd love to hear what other people have to say about what their predictions are. So
maybe when I finally come up with a prediction, I'll throw it in the comments.
There we go.
Again, I was just drawing blanks all night. All right.
What's going to actually happen is that TeslaBot is going to be an aquatic looking thing that looks like a mermaid, and they're going to bring out a tank of water and it's going to swim through it. And we'll be like, whoa, we did not expect that at all.
Whatever it is, we won't expect it.
Yeah, exactly. What is that? The Monty Python, no one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Oh, no. There we go. Mine is a bishop. Yeah.
All right. Exactly. All right, folks. Thank you for sharing some time with us. And it'll be great. A week from now, I'll be in Palo Alto, and hopefully.
And again, congratulations.
Thank you. I can't even believe it.
I'm sure everyone down there.
Woohoo!
In the comment section. So
yeah, there we go. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, cheers.